welcome to another edition of Swing State Update.
Number 12.
Number 12. It's like the 12 days of Christmas coming up here. My name's Tyler Boyer. We've got here Mr. State Representative
Austin Smith. Happy to be always back on Swing State Update.
Austin, how was the bachelor party?
It was awesome. We did some fishing. Jimmy Buffett, RIP. But cool place, Key West. I'd recommend going if you've never been before. It's a cool town.
Those of you that are unaware, Austin Smith is getting married.
I am.
And he's holding...
To a smoking hot blonde woman.
That's the best way to do it in America, folks, is marry women. That's great.
We still do that in this country. Some of us still do that.
Some of us are still believers in the traditional woman.
That's right.
That are born as women. So we're happy for you. We're really excited.
I'm excited. And thanks for giving me the time off to go on a bachelor trip for a few days.
I got a late night FaceTime from one of your attendees.
That's right.
That was
I heard
exciting.
about that.
Yeah, I was watching the Suns lose. So, anyways, really happy to be here. We have on the line with us two very special guests. I'll be joining for this episode. The wonderful Brianna, who's hailing from Wisconsin. She is the representative of our of what I think is the funnest territory. Which territory?
The most fun.
The most fun territory. First off, the lake is great, but the word Winnebago is the fantastic. And so her territory name is Winnebago. Which covers all of the great heartland that's outside of the Milwaukee area. It's more of towards the middle of the state. And does a tremendous job in Wisconsin for us, and it has
real America.
So welcome, Brianna.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really blessed to be here and be working with Turning Point Action.
Well, we're excited to have you on Swing State Update this week, and then of course the man who is connected and tied in, locked in to everything happening across the state of Georgia, the wonderful Orion. Who's with us as well, who is also on our team, on our Georgia team. Orion, welcome to the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Atlanta, it's not going to fix itself, so I'm happy to do it.
That's right.
Well, we need 10 more Orions. That's for sure.
And they both have done just such a fantastic job in their regions, their territories. Holding down the fort for the rest of the conservative movement in those important areas, and we're just so happy that we have you on the team and be on Swing State Update. I think this is Brianna's first time on Swing State Update, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, and so we're going to get into discussion today. We have a number of different topics that we're talking. We're going to talk a little bit of Arizona, but more broadly, the candidates that are coming down the pike and how things are looking. Georgia, we're going to talk the ghost Secretary of State that we've got, and we'll love to hear perspective coming from Orion. And then we're going to talk about what we need to do to win, heading forward here and moving forward as we head into the new year. It's crazy to think about already. It's like basically Thanksgiving.
I know. A week from now, essentially.
And what that means is that we have less than a year now until the election.
Mm-hmm.
Less than a year, folks. That's crazy. So yeah, let's just jump right into it and start talking. So topic number one here is, I believe, the conversation. This is Swing State Update.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the swing states, predominantly the 6 key target states that matter for the Democrats and the Republicans to fight over to ultimately win the presidency.
Yeah.
The second layer to that are the Senate races that exist for these states. So if we go through the 6 states, so again, we're going to cover again these 6 states: Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. I think we have a clip where our good friend talks about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I think that clip is in the 3rd block here. But then you have Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Those are the only 6 states that are flexible enough to impact the outcome of the presidential election. That's it.
Right.
So when you look at the map for Senate, which of those states have a race for Senate right now?
Arizona, Wisconsin.
So Arizona's got one. Wisconsin's got one.
Nevada, right?
And you guys feel free to chime in too, Orion and Brianna. Nevada has one.
Okay, so that's 3. Michigan has one.
Michigan's got one.
Pennsylvania does not. No, Pennsylvania does.
Pennsylvania does.
Trying to think who else.
So what's the sixth state?
Well, what was this? Michigan?
So the only one that doesn't have one is Georgia. Out of the six.
Georgia. But Ohio has a Senate race this year, right?
Ohio's got one. Florida's got one. Yep.
And then
Texas.
Texas has one. But of the swing states,
But of the swing states, 5 out of the 6 have them. So that's a second
huge.
layer. It's huge.
It's huge.
Huge.
That's more money. That's more, interaction amongst voters. A bunch of candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy. But yes, these swing state voters, they're a unique breed. The Georgia swing state voters are a lot different than the Arizona swing state voters compared to the Wisconsin ones. And 2 of those swing states, obviously Wisconsin has a Senate election, and Arizona has a Senate election. In Wisconsin, who's up for the Democrat that's running for re-election, Brianna? Is that Tammy Baldwin?
Yeah, it's Tammy Baldwin.
And she's been around for, last couple terms, right? I don't know how long she's been a senator in Wisconsin. Do you know?
I don't on the top of my head, but yeah, she's been around for a long time. I think she has like a 2 on the scorecard. Like she's bad news.
No, she is not. She's not a moderate Democrat. She is a far left-wing Democrat.
And she doesn't have a cakewalk to winning. Right now, she is in all the consensus maps. It's lean Democrat. But it's not a hard blue Democrat state. Tammy Baldwin could easily lose, if the right things happen all at the same time. Now, the problem is you look at this, is you have a really popular guy like Ron Johnson, who's loved in Wisconsin as a Republican.
Hometown boy.
He pulled out a squeaker in 2022.
And in 2016 too, a little bit.
And so people are going to look at this and go, oh, well, Republicans don't really have a chance. But depending upon the lift that happens in the state of Wisconsin and the right lift that goes on there, then you might have a chance. You might have actually a real fighting chance to pull off an upset.
Well, it's like with Donald Trump on the ballot, with Republican enthusiasm, you might have a better shot that time around than Ron Johnson. Mm-hmm. But you also look at a state like Arizona, where we're 0-3 right now for the last Senate elections. One of those times, Trump was on the ballot of those last 3 election cycles for Arizona's Senate races. Now we go back to Arizona for another Senate election, and right now it's really just a 3-way race between Sinema, who's running as an independent, Ruben Gallego running for the Democrat nomination, and then obviously Kari Lake and Mark Lamb vying for the Republican nomination. Obviously, Kari Lake is ahead by a lot, and so it's really a 3-way race for the United States Senate in Arizona. Axios just came out with an article yesterday of swing state voters largely backing Sinema for Senate in Arizona, but they support Gallego over Lake. But here's the thing about this: this was more of a focus group than it was polling. Mm-hmm. What they did was they had 11 Arizonans who voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. So 2 are Democrats, 3 are Republicans, and 6 are independents. And so a focus group is not statistically a significant sample like a poll is, but it's kind of showing you how some voters may think or talk about current events. I don't really think that it's accurate, but it was just kind of interesting to say that 8 of the 11 said they'd vote for Sinema if she's running against Gallego and Lake. 2 said that they'd vote for Gallego, and then another participant said she was torn between Gallego and Sinema. In a hypothetical 3-way matchup, no one backed Lake. None of the respondents said they voted for Lake in the 2020 governor's race. Now, to give you guys some background of this article that we're reading it out of, this Axios, they're left-leaning. They always take swipes. They always try to get, anybody can go to any focus group and, nitpick the information that they want, that they know they're going to go to a focus group that's going to be more slanted to a Democrat or the independent than Kari Lake. Axios running this article is much more anti-Kari Lake and pro-Sinema and Gallego. But recent Republican polling showed that Sinema and a distant third behind Gallego and Lake. All but one swing voter said they'd back Gallego in a heads up against Kari Lake. So that's 10-1 that they would back Kari Lake over, or Gallego over Kari Lake. I don't believe that. I don't think that's not accurate polling. The focus group is kind of weird.
So let me break something down for everybody real quick. Everybody knows basically, and again, this isn't, I'm not trying to be mean to Mark Lamb, but every single poll that comes out is basically it's over that Kari's there is like the presumptive nominee. She's like so far ahead in the polls. It's like Donald Trump in most of these.
Right.
People are starting to embrace that Donald Trump's going to be the nominee. Kari Lake here in Arizona. That's why all the conversations are around Kari, and that's it. That's why they're saying these conversations. And so what you're seeing is already the strategy that's going to be employed at the remainder of these other key target state races for sure, where they're going to try to use the race to help propel Kari
Lake,
anti-Trump messaging, right? That matters. And this is why this matters. So you got to pay attention. If you're paying attention to this, you're going to start to see this. So this article that Austin's referencing, even though polls show Kyrsten Sinema's like far behind both the Republican and Democrat in the race, and that's presumptively Ruben Gallego and Kari Lake. They're trying to. This whole article is about how like great Sinema is because they're trying to boost and prop up Sinema, mostly because they want to take votes away from Kari.
Right.
Because that's their whole goal, the media's goal. Everybody, this entire article is like a disgusting article, which is like none of these people voted for Kari in the gubernatorial race. So they identified.
So they weren't going to vote for her anyway.
Yeah, like this doesn't tell you anything, right? Like they're just trying to pull a bunch of people here, and there was clearly a ton of independents who voted for Kari. So you've got a scenario here, which to me this is what plays out in these key target states. Is it's going to be close. Like Arizona's a toss-up for Senate right now. Montana's a toss-up for Senate right now. Ohio's a toss-up for Senate right now. Michigan and Wisconsin are both, and Pennsylvania are all light blue. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't know.
Right.
So if you fund the things that we need to fund in order to get the president across the line,
Kari Lake can win.
Kari can and will win, right? Wisconsin's winnable. Michigan's winnable. What do you think, Brianna?
Yeah, I definitely agree that we need to kind of keep on coming together and just keep fighting for next year in terms of like, there's not a lot of talk in Wisconsin right now with the Senate race. Like there's a lot of people talking about it and talking about who they think should be running, but there's not that many people that are willing to go up against Tammy, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's our biggest problem. The biggest problem that we have right now is from a candidate standpoint, and this is why it's so crazy, and this is why it's so damaging and so harmful. Like, look, I know not every no one. You're never gonna find a candidate that's like everybody's cup of tea, right? You're just not. Like you're just not. Like Ron Johnson happens to be like a universally well liked person in Wisconsin. Those are rare, right? Not everybody loves Marco Rubio. Not everybody likes Rick Scott. Not everybody's gonna like JD Vance, right? But did JD Vance win? Yeah, he did because he was a better candidate to the Democrat alternative,
right?
And so this entire moderate spiel of like trying to like scare, like go after anybody that gets endorsed by Donald Trump, by the way, is one of the most damaging things that could possibly exist. One of the most damaging things. Like, and this is like so nefarious about the moderates. And again, I want to make this super clear. If you are involved in the Republican Party, the moderate class of Republican is dying off. It is a super minority in the party now. I expect and suspect that they have less than 15% support if you actually true support, if you look and you adequately polled the Republican Party today. So this is like former McCain people that like Lindsey Graham. I don't think Lindsey Graham has much of a future. I don't think that there's many people that have much of a future unless they're able to keep other people out from running. That's it.
And to that point is like, think of these swing state voters and some of these politicians that are elected within the Republican Party. You think of Turning Point USA, and even some of the young Republican groups or just conservatives in general. The younger generation is much more conservative than some of the people that we have now. And so that's, I mean, as in the Republican Party, more younger Republican Party activists are much more conservative than the generation was before us. And like Orion's, I think you probably got a pretty good example is like Georgia. Georgia has like you're kind of like in the same spot Arizona was a while back, where you're in this identity crisis, or you're changing between, you've got grassroots people serving in the legislature and then running the state parties, but you still have establishment heads like Brian Kemp at the top of the Republican Party.
Well, and again, going back, you look at Georgia and what happened to Herschel Walker. You look at Kentucky and what happened to the most recent gubernatorial. By the way, this is so ridiculous. We had a candidate in Kentucky who is a young, incredibly family-oriented black attorney general, right? Mm-hmm. We have one of the most heroic figures ever in Georgia football history run for Senate, U.S. Senate. And the moment that they got support from Donald Trump in any kind of way, shape, or form, what happened? What happened, Orion?
I mean, the moderates come in, they attack them, they make a whole big fuss, and we're still dealing with this today, especially with a lot of those folks that are the diehard Brian Kemp voters that, they don't understand the way the party is moving on a national level or even at a grassroots level. They're happy to let all this die off. And I'll give you an example. If you look at our college Republicans and our teen Republicans, I mean, the experience is vastly different. These teen Republicans, they've got fight. They're ready to go. They want to get involved. They are excited to. And the college Republicans, say, except for a few of them, I mean, a lot of them, they're happy to be there with the establishment. They're happy to get along. And so I think it's really telling when you have races like in Kentucky, the South, it's an interesting dynamic because you have areas like in Florida, you have South Georgia, you have North Georgia, but it's that concentration in the middle that still wants to appeal to people like on the mainstream media and all that. And that it's sad to say, but those are folks that we're going to have to work on. I know come March 12th, that's when our primary is. There's only one candidate I'll be voting for. But, we're going to have to work on them, especially in the general, because a lot of women, that suburban mom vote, you're going to need a good VP candidate or some good points, some good policy procedures even that you can bring out to get those suburban moms in. Because if we can't get those suburban moms to get on track, I mean, the America First movement, while it's the future, it's going to take even longer to really solidify as the base.
And this is the point. So as soon as these guys announced that they had support of Donald Trump, the moderates and establishment attacked them.
Yeah.
And so...
and they also abandoned them.
Well, like with Herschel, it was like touch and go because it was like, well, Donald Trump didn't feel super warmly welcome because the Kemp people to come do rallies to help Herschel, right? And so he didn't, right? And he didn't do a lot of stuff in Georgia as much as we probably could have done because the Kemp base, the establishment, which again, I believe is now in like actual support when they're up against real strong candidates, lose in primaries, these guys like were repelling Donald Trump. Well, and look at Kentucky.
Exactly.
This is what happened is Donald Trump did the right thing, right? And again, there's a quote that I've heard that somebody said to me once, and I think about almost every day in the work that we do, is when I'm with you, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, and I say this to our team a lot, when I'm with you, I'm with you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you are married to that person. That doesn't mean that you just can't disagree with that person on other things, right? But when I'm with you, I'm with you. Donald Trump did the right thing immediately in Kentucky and endorsing Cameron.
Yeah.
And you know what they did? Immediately, the establishment, the Mitch McConnell establishment there went, whoa, you can't have Donald Trump come into this state and do rallies. Like, that's not going to fly. You're not going to get money from us if you do that. And guess what was happening towards the end of the race? At the end of the race, they were polling, and they weren't getting the Trump boost that they needed in a state where Donald Trump won that state like by...
Like 60%.
By like
Let's go look it up.
in
Actually.
absurd numbers, right? Where he won by like literally it was a greater margin than, the dividing of the Red Sea. So it was
Trump
like
got 62% of the vote.
he got
in
62% of the vote in
Kentucky.
So he
in
won by like
2020.
30 points
Yeah.
in Kentucky. And so by the end of it, all the leadership in the Republican Party of Kentucky were going like, what do we need to do to get Trump in here? Well, Cameron's in the spot where like all these guys had threatened the hell out of him because he just got endorsed by the guy. Right? Like it's not like he's like BFFs with Donald Trump. He just got endorsed by him and they're like, you better not, right? And guess what happened? What happened to Herschel? What happened?
They lost. I mean, they lost support. They didn't get the funding they needed. They struggled to make sure they kept their staff, and it really killed them.
They basically became. It was like it's like a leprosy thing, right? Where it's like the way that that the establishment treats conservatives who touch Donald Trump. Right?
Right.
All of a sudden are lepers, and it's like, we're not going to have anything to do with you. And so you've got to spend all your time instead of campaigning, instead of raising money, instead of getting votes, instead of
tiptoeing around,
targeting strategically the votes that we need to get. Like in this case, like we talk about so often on this podcast is low propensity votes. You're now spending all your time worried about what does Governor Kemp think of me? What does Mitch McConnell think of me? And this goes back to Blake Masters. Blake Masters spent so much time trying to prove that like he wasn't like the villain in the movie to Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell ultimately didn't believe him, didn't give any money, and we got no resources in Arizona because of it. But Blake spent how much time and energy? I mean, he would probably tell you honestly, like I spent way too much time and energy worried about what Mitch McConnell was going to do or not do. And this is part of the problem. This is a really big strategic element of this. Is when we don't have to worry about that, we're more positioned to win on both sides. It only works one way in the party, because the establishment always, when they win primaries, they always just expect conservatives to get in line and vote for them, right?
Well, I'll tell you this.
It doesn't work the other way, though.
No.
When we get conservatives that win primaries.
They take their ball and go home. They do it here in Arizona. They're doing it
but
in Georgia.
But it's even worse than that, because it's not even just conservatives. It's anybody that like becomes a leper because they associated with Trump. Even in the small part.
It's not even just Trump. And to give you some like insider baseball on this is like, so we're very active in Georgia. We have a full-fledged staff in Georgia, and we have for the last couple cycles. And Herschel was running, and we had Super Saturdays and events all the time in Georgia, and we invited Herschel all the time. Turning Point Action, we are a conservative C4. We are conservatives. We're not afraid to tell you that. Yeah, we back the conservatives to win these primaries. We back the conservatives to win these general elections. And Herschel had establishment people working on his campaign. That's just a fact. He had establishment people on the campaign, making decisions. And if you want to win an election, you should probably have Turning Point Action support with our bodies on the ground, doing free things for you that your campaign doesn't have to pay for. Because when you're on a campaign and there's a C4 that's willing to go out there and knock doors for you or chase ballots or host a rally that doesn't come out of your own campaign bank account that an organization is willing to do for you, we were doing that at Turning Point Action. And the Herschel campaign really did kind of treat us like lepers. And I think that's mainly because we're conservatives. And there were people on the Herschel campaign that didn't want to have anything really to do with us because they were too worried about, what did the Atlanta Journal think? What did Brian Kemp think? And in Arizona, same kind of example like that. And so, yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right in.
Let's talk Georgia.
That's a good transition to Georgia.
Talk some more Georgia.
Let's pull that first. I think we have a clip, right?
Yeah, play clip 2.
Let's jump into clip 2.
Has anyone seen Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger? The same guy who's supposed to uphold our state's election integrity?
We had safe, secure, honest elections.
Brad Raffensperger has failed to attend a Senate appropriations hearing since 2020, which oversees his office budget. He missed one of the most important election integrity hearings recently to attend a speaking engagement where his absence was noted.
I'm disappointed, certainly, that the Secretary's not here. The Secretary's not here.
We never saw him in the Senate.
And when I say Secretary of State's office, I'm talking about the individual who's elected to hold that office is a ghost.
And so far, Brad Raffensperger has only worked 42 days this year. That's right, 42 days. And since 2021, he's been missing from work 70% of the time. If you or I did that, we'd be fired from our jobs. How are we supposed to have
safe, secure, honest elections
if our state's chief election officer is missing?
Orion, what's the story on Brad?
Brad's been a character. He's been probably the worst of the worst. Before Brad held the office, actually Brian Kemp was in the Secretary of State's office before he took over the governorship in 2018. But Brad, especially after 2020, he's been getting a lot of heat and not been doing much about it. You have the grassroots on the ground. There's multiple organizations in the state that are trying to advocate for at least looking over the Holderman report, which, if you're not aware of it, it talked about some of the vulnerabilities in the Dominion voting machines. He's pretty much been MIA on that. You've had, like I've said, there's been a lot of groups that have been advocating for paper ballots, actually. Paper ballots, that's a huge thing. There was a race in the town just next door. I could literally go and touch it if I ran across the street. The town just over there, they had a paper ballot election, and now and they showed how easy it was. Now, there were some issues with the timing of it all. It took a little bit slow, but it was the first paper ballot election that municipal race has seen in a very long time. So paper ballots are possible, but the Secretary of State doesn't want to hear them. The county commissioners don't want to hear them. The Board of Registrations and Elections don't want to hear them. And Brad Raffensperger is still nowhere to be found. Thankfully, you have people like Kelly Loeffler and you have Burt Jones, our lieutenant governor, who's stepping up and saying, hey, look, we're supposed to be a team on this. We're supposed to be advocating for what Georgians need. And Brad Raffensperger is nowhere to be found. Now, this Thursday, he'll be speaking at a young Republican group here in Atlanta. But other than that, he doesn't seem to be wanting to do his work. He's not attending meetings. I mean, he's really just not great. And now you have rumors of potential runnings in 26. Meanwhile, we're still trying to get through 2024. These rumors for 2026, I mean, I'm not going to be voting for the guy. Of all the candidates I heard, there's absolutely no way. And there's still a lot of people that can't comprehend the fact that his race for lieutenant governor back in 22 was called. It was one of the first races called, and he had an overwhelming majority of votes. I believe it was 60 to 70% of the primary votes in that primary for Secretary of State. And so, the people of Georgia have absolutely no faith in Brad Raffensperger's ability to conduct himself and actually do the duties of the job of the Secretary of State.
Well, so this is like, Brad is like really similar to Stephen Richer that we have here in Maricopa County and recording. It's like almost like if you could carbon copy these people.
Yeah.
This is why people,
and there's always a couple that are
this is why people believe in lizard people, is because all of a sudden these people come out of nowhere and it's like they just act all the exact same. But
no, Stephen Richards just a loser.
Let's pull up Charlie's tweet. Let's just throw it up real quick. And this is the right take. Imagine calling yourself a Republican and secretly and maliciously recording a call with the leader of your party and president of the United States, then leaking it to the Washington Post. That's Brad.
Mm-hmm.
That is Brad.
I remember when he did that, yeah.
So, I mean, you're with people. We have people that call themselves Republican, which is insane. They should not be able to call themselves Republican. That are hiding from the party. They will not do anything with the actual Republican Party in Georgia, right? Brad will not show up to anything. This is why this commercial we just saw, he's not showing up.
Right.
Same with
going to
Stephen
work.
Richer. Stephen
Yeah.
Richer hasn't been to a Republican meeting since he tried to dupe everybody.
He says
he was a
doesn't-
conservative when he ran.
He
the
says he
original time.
doesn't go anymore because he's scared for his life.
He's scared for his life.
That's
Yeah,
what
well,
Stephen Richer says.
I'd be scared for my life if I were him walking into a dentist's office, but I don't know if I would be scared for my life walking into a Republican Party meeting. He has to hear from voters.
Yeah.
He has to hear from the people who elected him originally. The problem is he has no good answers for what he's doing because he's secretly working with Democrats in the background. And this is the problem that happens with these guys is they what ends up happening is they just write off everything. They get embraced by the media. They get loved by the media. They get protected by the media. And then they spend all of their time just working with the opposition. These are not Republicans.
And attacking Republicans. Because
And
Stephen
the-
Richards attacks Republicans more than he does Democrats.
This is
all the time.
and this is a failure of the National Party. Okay, and you have this problem, Brianna, in Wisconsin to very slightly lesser extent with Robin Voss. You've got Robin Voss. You've got Brad Raffensperger. You've got a guy like Stephen Richer here in Arizona, and these people are not aiding the Republican Party anyway, and they're allowing themselves to become tools in the hands of the Democrats to help Democrats win. And that's just this, if you want to simplify it, that's what's going on. So right now you have in Georgia a party that is unable because the party's stupid. And I'm just going to say this, the Republican Party is stupid. And here's the reason why it's stupid. And this is the RNC's problem, right? Because the state parties are not emboldened and embraced to do this. We have to have a much faster moving mechanism to eliminate people's ability to put an R next to their name if they're not standing in line with the platform that is produced by the RNC and the platform that should be forcefully produced at least by the key target states in which we operate.
Yeah. And a perfect example is so we're watching that commercial and those guys are talking about the Secretary of State's office isn't here. Those are all Senate, I imagine, Republicans that are deeply involved in elections or election legislation in Georgia. Perfect example. Do you know how many times Stephen Richer testified before the Arizona House Elections Committee this year regarding bills? None. Adrian Fontes, who's a Democrat, at least showed up. And that's just kind of the state of the Republican Party right now, is that you've got these Democrat like Stephen Richer, who's claimed to be a Republican, actively working with the media to undermine good Republican election integrity legislation. Raffensperger, just in that commercial there, I remember what he was saying. That was like on a 60 Minutes interview or another left-wing avenue giving these interviews to these Democrats, these liberal hacks. Everything's fine with elections. Everything's great, when you're really just undermining the entire Republican Party when you're doing that kind of stuff. And they say, it's because I'm believing the truth. I'm like, you're not. You're working with Democrats.
Well, here and this is the challenge that we're going to have in front of us going forward for the next few months. You're going to have the inevitable happen, which is Donald Trump is going to become the nominee, right? So it's going to get worse before it gets better, right, Brianna? Right, Orion?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are seeing it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Brianna and Orion are spending, and I want to make sure everyone that's listening knows, our team is at every local meeting, every local county meeting, Republican club meetings. I mean, these are the most active full-time people. And by the way, we have more full-time staff on the ground in these states than the RNC does, right? So we are in all the 10 key target states.
Right.
So you go through the 6 that we've covered in depth, and then 4 additional: North Carolina, North Carolina, Iowa, and then Ohio and Florida on top of the other 6, the swing states. And we are at more meetings. We're talking every time. You talk at stuff. I talk at stuff. You guys talk at stuff. And what we're doing is we're recruiting precinct leaders. We're registering voters. We're putting out tables. We're pumping everybody up. But here's what's going to blow everybody's mind. And this is why I have zero patience and I have zero tolerance for the individuals who are out there who don't show up to any of this stuff, like Raffensperger, right? Like Raffensperger. He's not showing up to meetings. You know who's showing up to meetings? Orion is showing up to meetings. Orion should be Secretary of State, right? He has more engagement in the party than Brad does, right? And so you've got guys who are out, and they're going to tell you over the next 3 months how stupid you are, how wrong you are, how despicable, how disgusting you are, and they're all going to be magnified and pushed by the media, right? And so the 3 or 4 people out of the 3 or 4 million that feel this way, right, in the state, are going to get all the airtime that they want.
They're amplified.
So you got to look at this, and this at its heart, folks, is that this is the heart of Saul Alinsky. Okay, so if you have not studied Alinskyism in your life, you need to understand how Alinskyites think, how they act, how they react, what they do. Their whole goal is to be like Brad, right? Don't show up, use everything that you possibly can to manipulate the public, right? And then play poor me and victim when you get attacked. And we fall for, and people, normal people that are involved in the process fall for this every time. There's only one way to fight Alinskyyites. And the most common answer when I ask that question is, how do you fight Alinskyyites? The most common answer, you know what it is? What do you guys think it is?
Bring truth to light.
No, that is the right answer. We'll get to that in just a second. But the most common answer that everyone says is fight fire with more Alinskyite tactics. That is not the way that you beat Alinskyyites. You will get out Alinskyed by the Alinskyyites every time. The way you beat Alinskyyites is exactly what you just said, Orion, is you have to bring truth to light. You have to, the Achilles heel to Alinskyism and to those that worship Alinsky is by just telling the truth and making sure that as many people hear the truth as possible, because truth will always win.
Yeah.
Good always beats evil. You have to believe that. You have to believe that that is how the world operates, that Jesus has our back, right? You have to believe this. That's the only hope that we have. That's the only story behind the founding of America. So you look at this and you go, okay, how do I defeat these people? The moment, and this is why everybody that's in, and I totally get it, and I know I'm on a soapbox right now, but this is really important for everyone to hear. This is the biggest failure within the conservative movement is I see on Twitter all day is like, we have to stop the cheating. We have to take these people out. We have to to do this and this anger and animosity. And what it devolves into is Alinsky type tactics against those people. That's what they start trying to apply. Not going to work, folks. You have to spend all your time organizing. You have to do what Brianna and Orion are doing, and Austin is doing, and our entire team that we have that are out there are doing, which is recruit, tell the truth, raise money to fund people that can go out and do that and that can tell the truth, because you have to pay people to be full-time employees to fight this, right? Just the same way that you pay military, right? Would I love a volunteer army in America? Yeah, sure. Is anyone going to be able to become a professional member of the military without getting paid? No. So do you want a military or do you not?
If you're good at something, never do it for free either.
That is true. And you're never going to get good at something, by the way?
By not being
doing
paid.
it for free your whole life.
Yeah. People want to get paid.
You're never going to do it. So, we're not talking about overpaying people. We're not talking, but you have to have full-time staff. I can tell you right now.
Full-time ballot chasers, full-time people recruiting precinct committeemen, full-time people registering voters
and Orion
like our
will
team.
Tell you right now, they have to have flanking. They are going to be the war generals but we've got to have an army built around these guys. If we choose not to do that as a movement, we will get absolutely annihilated, because you're not going to have enough bodies on the battlefield in order to fire bullets, which are the bullets of truth, right?
Yeah.
That is the ultimate problem that we're going to have.
Well, let's talk some more swing state here, as there's polls that came out. We got a couple clips here. Play clip 1, Fox News, the newest Trump poll with Biden. Clip 3, excuse me.
Well, every new poll that comes out, Donald Trump is doing better and better. And Joe Biden's legacy, quite frankly, might be 4 more years of Donald Trump, because the country appears to be done with Joe Biden. And even Barack Obama is done with Joe Biden. His comments this weekend about Biden's foreign policy regarding Israel certainly undercuts his chances also going into next year.
I really hate Nancy.
So there are also some discontented voters when it comes to the economy and, the way things are looking right now. I think we can put some of those numbers on the screen. When asked whether this president is helping them economically, only 18% said President Biden is doing, so 45% like the job that President Trump did. And when it comes to lowering the chances of war, 23% say President Biden is capable of that. 43% say former President Trump was able to pull that off, or maybe is able to pull that off. This president has a big hole to dig out of if he wants to win re-election.
So Trump is ahead in 5 of 6 swing state polls right now. Now, I've already said on this show plenty of times, I don't always trust political polling because we've seen Republicans just dominate in certain polls for such a long time, and then we still don't have ballot chases and we get swamped at the ballot box. But with that being said, this poll that was recently done by the New York Times and Siena College, let's go through these 6 states right now. Well, let's start with the big 3 that are the most important in winning back the White House. Obviously, Georgia being the first one. Biden, 43%, Trump, 49%. That's a 6-point difference with the president ahead, or with President Trump ahead of Joe Biden. Let's go to Arizona. Joe Biden, 44%. Trump, 49%. That's a 5-point difference. And then the next one that's the most important to winning back the White House, obviously, Wisconsin. This is where Joe Biden is the only place allegedly ahead, 47% to Trump, 45%. And I want to bring Brianna in here. Of all the swing states right now, those 3, that one is the one that kind of sticks out to me the most, that it wouldn't have Trump ahead of Biden. Arizona, I could see Biden still being ahead of Trump here in Arizona. But the Wisconsin one kind of throws me for a loop here. I want to get what you think, why that they've got Biden up 2 over Trump in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't believe that whatsoever. So I cover the Fox Valley area in Wisconsin. So that includes Outagamie, Winnebago, Fond du Lac, and Calumet counties. And this summer, I went to over 13 county fairs volunteering with the GOPs. And everyone that I talk to, everywhere I go, Trump is leading. Like, kids at these fairs, they're so excited to buy their flags and they wear it around, Trump flags. And you talk to, even just going to patriot groups, going to, I just started the Young Republicans, or I'll keep going to even outside of political groups. I keep going to keep on networking, and everyone, it doesn't make sense to me of how that is true, that Trump is not leading. So I'm going to be honest, I don't believe it whatsoever.
In the Fox Valley area, people need to understand too. So there's some key places in Wisconsin that you got to win as a Republican. Fox Valley is really near the top. So you've got, I think there's 3 areas that you really gotta. You can maybe argue 4, but 3 areas that really matter. You've got the southeastern part of Wisconsin, which is like your drive up from Chicago. You've got your traditional, former quote-unquote suburbs that are a little bit more urban now in Racine and Kenosha that you got to win. You've got Fox Valley, which is like beautiful, rural, outside of Milwaukee, territory kind of north of Milwaukee, north and west. And then you've got, the Bay Area, which is your snobby Green Bay people. No, I'm just teasing. But your Green Bay area, that's kind of the north, a little more uppity. And then you've got the Milwaukee area, right? Which is, there's a lot of focus that needs to be on Waukesha, just right outside of where there's a ton of suburban Republicans who, if we don't turn out 3 or 4% there, that's the end of any race in Wisconsin. But Fox Valley is pretty close to the top, and here's the reason why it's really important, is because it's right on the lip there of like It's rural, suburban, right? And kind of, it's a good indicator, it's a good flag for, how are things feeling across the state of Wisconsin, because Wisconsin's different than Georgia and Arizona. Georgia and Arizona have a problem, and it's called Fulton. It's called Meriton. It's Maricopa and Fulton County are your problems because they can cheat enough to manipulate and screw us left and right in those two big, massive metropolitan counties, so much that it influences the rest of the state. Wisconsin's different, right? Brianna knows this. Wisconsin is much different because there's a much bigger spread out of the population across the state. So you've got pockets, obviously, that are really bad, similar to Arizona, like Milwaukee, and in Dane County you have Madison. So it's similar to Arizona where you have Phoenix and Tucson, but Phoenix and Tucson are much bigger.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's smaller than like four suburbs of Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Like Milwaukee's tiny in comparison to most other big cities. So it's really hard for them to cheat actually in Wisconsin. They have to actually invest tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of bodies. So this goes back to like what we were talking about. We got to have way more eyes, obviously. We got to make sure that they don't manipulate votes in Milwaukee and Atlanta and Phoenix.
It's just like we've been talking about weeks ago, especially Wisconsin, so much harder to win there. Trying to bring ranked choice voting to Wisconsin. Trying to change the redistricting process
because they're not sure.
Because they don't know how to win this all the way.
Because they're not sure. And like what Brianna's saying is right. Like, the polls are polls, whatever. Trust them, don't trust them. I don't trust any polls. They're always going to say whatever, but and they're gonna have an edge to them. But if you're out and you're feeling the vibe on the ground, right? And the vibe, by the way, too, in 2022 was that Kari Lake should not have lost. The vibe in 2020 was that Donald Trump should not have lost Arizona, right? I don't know how you guys felt in Wisconsin and Georgia, but that was the vibe here. That was the vibe on the ground. But what is the difference maker? The difference maker, guys, is that the difference between a tight race is 2, 3, 4% turnout of low propensity voters. And in a midterm or a special election, off year election, it's not even low propensity. It's mid propensity voters.
Yeah, that's 2 and 3s. Yep.
They have a limitless amount of Play-Doh to play with to mold this election, right? They have limitless amounts of clay to mold the election. So this is like the gospel that we have to continue to preach and understand. When you look at the data, you look at the numbers, you can win any election in America if you get enough bodies to turn out. And I just talked about this yesterday on a St. Louis radio station with the St. Louis wonderful host that's down there on talk radio, is that if you understand the Chicago model, how the Democrats controlled Chicago for so long, and the bad guys in the Democrat Party controlled Chicago for so long, excuse me, was they would pick people up and drive them to the polls. So they had buses, like entire bus routes, where they were just picking up poor people, minorities, things like that, offering them things because they had such a low value on their ballot.
Yep.
And they got away from that for years across the United States because it just didn't work anywhere else. It didn't make sense because everyone in Chicago lived on top of each other. It didn't make sense in suburbs. So what changed? 2 things. Quick data analysis, right? It's the 21st century, guys. They know when you
where the
vote.
Votes are, where to go get
They know
them.
how up to the second. That's not how it used to work. It used to work. You'd show up on election day.
Right.
Now, if they get you to vote early, now they know exactly when you vote. So now if they send everybody a mail-in ballot, they know exactly when you vote. The second thing is now all you have to do is fund bodies to go to these ballots instead of picking them up in buses.
Close to almost 1,000 people working for Mark Kelly's C4 just to chase ballots in Arizona. Like that's smart.
It is way easier to get someone to walk to their mailbox than to get on a bus and go to the polling place.
Yeah, when your mailbox is right around the corner. Yeah, right there. Let's go to clip 4, our friend Jack Posobiec talking about these swing state polls.
In the states that will determine the next president of the United States, Donald Trump is dominating Joe Biden. I told you, because I said if Joe Biden is losing to Trump in the national poll, the real clear politics average. I was banging the table about this all day yesterday. I said this is the first time we've ever seen Trump up in a poll like that. In his entire political career, even against Hillary, even against Biden in 20, we never saw him leading in national polls. And I said, if he is up nationally, just imagine where he is in the battleground states. And now look, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. By the way, you win those three, the race is over. Now you add in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, it's over. Total psychic domination.
So before, we're getting to the end of the show here, but he mentioned those three states. And now Nevada, I think we've got the graphic here, or the screenshot of Trump ahead in the 5 of the 6 states. Nevada, Trump up 10 over Biden, 52-41 in Nevada. Michigan, this is a sleeper. Biden, 43, Trump, 48. Pennsylvania, Trump up 4, 48-44. Now, that's all good and well, but this is also a huge red flag for the left-wing C4s, the Democrat National Committee, that they're going to have to go find those votes now. And how are they going to go find those votes?
So you know what I believe, Austin? I believe that they're running with this narrative because they're trying to get donors to move to fund more bodies in these states.
I 100% agree. So this is showing them like, hey, we're down 5 points in Arizona. We need 10,000 more ballot chasers in Arizona.
This is right. Bingo, 100%. And this should scare the living daylights out of you, Brianna. This should scare the living daylights out of you, Orion. Is that I actually think this should scare Brianna first because here's what I believe. I believe that they use the polls to try to either lull a sense of security for Republicans or to push donors to fund more in these states. So the first observation, let's just say that's true, all right? Like everybody listening to this that's like, you know, in the establishment is like, these guys are conspiracy theorists. Like, okay, whatever. We've watched enough of this to know what's going on.
I don't care what the establishment thinks about me. Don't care.
Here's the two key takeaways from that theory. Let's just say it's true. Theory one, or takeaway one, is that they feel that they have enough resources already invested into Wisconsin. So that should be terrifying to everybody, right? And I actually don't doubt that. And here's the reason why. And from what I'm seeing on the ground and from what I'm seeing, just acute observations to things, is that the battle right now between the Democrats is, do we put more money to Georgia or do we put more money into Arizona? Right? And so now they're going, they're putting out these polls, right, to show the disparity. And can we throw that one back up?
And this is a New York Times Siena poll.
It has Georgia, Biden down 6, Arizona, Biden down 5. Okay, so it's basically the same. Trump 49, Trump 49. No, isn't that convenient, right? So I think what they're doing right now is this, and I'd love your guys' feedback and thoughts and what you're thinking, and just as you're chewing on this a little bit, they're seeing how Kennedy, West, and now Jill Stein are impacting the votes in those two states. Make sense? Wisconsin, they don't have a choice. They got to win Wisconsin. Wisconsin's like your historic. They look at Wisconsin the way that we look at Arizona, which is like we should be winning that state, right? That's how Democrats view Wisconsin.
That's right.
That's how we view Arizona and Georgia, right? Now, but they have to win to ensure victory. They have to win Arizona or Wisconsin. Or Arizona or Georgia. So now they're going, okay, how does Jill Stein, how does Colonel West, how does RFK Jr., how does all of this kind of play into this? And what do we need to do to ensure a victory? And it's really screwing up their numbers, right? Because now they're going, oh my gosh, if you've seen some of these polls with RFK in it, in Georgia,
giving Trump a 5% lead.
RFK actually pulls a significant amount of Democrat votes, surprising, which is against the theories of some, doomer Republicans who are saying like RFK is going to steal Trump votes. No, bro, no. And
not in every state.
In in a place like Georgia, where all of the Trump hate has already come out, right? They've already squeezed out all the Trump hate, right? The Kemp clan has already juiced that out.
We know you hate him. We know you hate Trump.
RFK is pulling more Democrats.
Yeah.
And if that happens, Trump wins. So now they're going, okay, well, is Georgia winnable now with RFK on the ballot? With Jill Stein on there, with West on there, with Trump getting 5% more black vote and 20% more Latino vote, Hispanic vote. Is that winnable? And now, what does that mean? They may pull all their resources out of Georgia, push them all to Arizona and go, we're going all in on Arizona.
We need Arizona, yeah.
We could win this election if they try to fund both fully, right? But I believe that's why they're doing this poll. Your guys' takes, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Atlanta in August when the arraignment happened for President Trump. The energy down there was, I mean, people were really wanting to see President Trump. They were excited to see him, and there was a large amount of the minority community that actually came out. There were videos posted all over Twitter of people be like, that's my guy, that's my president, he knows what we're going through. Mm-hmm. And so maybe if we can, when he becomes the nominee, if we can embrace that. And, I've been working on some minority engagement in Atlanta and just hearing what these people have to say. And, a lot of their values are Republican values. They care about the family. We're down here in the Bible Belt. They care about their pastors. All this trans stuff is a bunch of BS. And so we can tap into that. And, Stacey Abrams' group, I'm sure they're going to be completely active. So I would not doubt if they try to bring in more votes, because RFK was speaking at historically black colleges and universities here in Atlanta just a month or two ago, trying to drum up support. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get more votes, especially in Fulton County, where we have over 100% voter registration in our county. So I would not be surprised if they're going to try to pull some tactics like that. And, honestly, I kind of want them to waste money here because, we're going to be fighting the ground. I've been working with so many county Republican parties. They are ready. They are primed. They have a hunger to get on the ground and go where Republicans just haven't gone before. We're looking to get involved and engage in those communities.
Right. Well, and I want to point something out here too, and this goes back to the polling numbers. So if you go to the 270towin.com and you play with this, right? This is why they don't care about Nevada. This is why nobody really cares about Nevada, right? Even if Nevada is really down 10 points, right? They're not going to invest as heavily into Nevada.
Yeah.
Because here's the reason why Nevada doesn't matter. So let's say they have to win Wisconsin, right? So at this point, you pretty much have to win Wisconsin because you cannot, I don't think if you're the Democrats, you can strategically expect automatically to win Georgia or Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Something could go totally wrong for you in either one of those states late in the game. And if you the likelihood of winning both those is just low. Nevada's tilting right. I think you're going to see that, and you may see that stick. You may see Trump win Nevada because they're going to pull all their resources out of Nevada and put them in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
They have no choice but to do that at this point, right? Same with Georgia. You're going to see, I think you're going to see like another historic win in the U.S. Senate race in Florida, right? And this is going to make DeSantis look stupid because they pulled all their resources out of Florida and they're in Georgia. So now the question is, do they keep everything there or do they not? Here's the reason why it matters. If things could go really wrong for Democrats here, because if the Maine congressional district goes to Republicans, right, and the Nebraska congressional district goes to Republicans, Democrats, if they lose Georgia but win Arizona, let me play with this here, and lose Nevada, they only come out with 270 electoral college votes. Puts them very, very close. So nothing can go wrong for them at all. That is way too close. So if they win Arizona, lose Wisconsin, lose Georgia. If they win Wisconsin, and they lose Arizona, it's a tie, 269 to 269. So this is the constitutional crisis. If this wouldn't be like the greatest slap in the face to the American populace, because it's going to turn this country inside out. Trump wins Maine, the Maine congressional district, not the state, the congressional district, loses Wisconsin, and Republicans win Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, which the polls are showing it's trending, and we put enough resources in those states to win. That will be a tie. The first tie in maybe ever,
Wild.
I think, in a long time.
So it's Thomas Jefferson, I believe.
269 to 269, in which case then it would go to Congress to
House
pick
of
the president.
Representatives.
And it's not just the House of Representatives. It's each state would get a vote based
One
off your
vote.
delegation.
That's right. They
from
all
the
have to
Congress.
pick the majority of that delegation. So if your state is majority Republican delegation, that one vote will go to likely the Republican nominee.
And it's the current Congress. So
Correct.
It's this Congress
And
we
not
have
the
today
Congress in
that
the
gets
next-
elected. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the current Congress right now, so in Arizona, we have six Republicans, 3 Democrats.
So ours would go
So
to-
ours would vote for the Republican, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. We'll keep an update on it here. We need you to go to tpaction.com/precinct. Everything we talked about today about why Stephen Richer is bad and Brad Raffensperger is because they don't respect the grassroots. You want to have a say in the Republican Party, the direction that our party goes, the platform, the candidates we put up. You're prioritizing election integrity. You want to make sure that our voter registration rolls are cleaned up. You want to make sure we have low taxes. You want to make sure that we're nominating Donald Trump, America First type people to run for office. You've got to be a precinct committeeman. You're not actually in the Republican Party unless you're a precinct committeeman. Our staff across the country, in the battleground states, every single day, recruits and signs up people to be precinct committeemen. Whether you're in Georgia, you're in Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin doesn't have them, but if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in Nevada, if you're in Ohio, Iowa, whatever the statutory nomenclature is for your state, precinct committeeman, precinct delegate, precinct president, central committee member, we are there to ensure that you have a voice in your local Republican Party. We're going to be talking about chasing the vote. We talk about it every single episode, our Chase the Vote initiative. Go to tpaction.com/chase. We're going to be mobilizing thousands of people in Arizona and Wisconsin, working with Brianna, and in Georgia with Orion to get these low propensity voters into the mailbox, getting those ballots in. It's all a simple game of math. If you live in New Mexico, we need you to come work for us in Arizona. We need you to go to tpaction.com/chase for you to be here. If you live in Arizona, we're going to be paying people to go chase these votes. This is what the left does. This is what Mark Kelly has been so effective at in winning these elections. Go to tpaction.com/chase. We're building our army right now. tpaction.com/coalitions. If you're a mom and you're pissed off about the way the country's going, you've got to be a part of our moms coalitions in the states like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin. You're going to make a difference in recruiting other moms that are like-minded, just like you, who care about these issues, who care about the future direction of our country, about what our children are being taught, about how safe and secure our public safety is, our schools. We need you to be a part of our coalitions. If you're a farmer, you're a rancher, if you're an educator, if you're a healthcare professional, if you're an African American, we want you to be a part. If you're Latino, we want you to be a part of our coalitions, building these huge armies across the country to be a part of helping save the country. Tyler, any final last thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, I just want to thank, and I can't speak more highly of Orion and Brianna, who are out in the field working every single day. Our teams in Georgia and Wisconsin, we'll kind of get their final thoughts here on our way out here, and just to sign off. Just thank you guys so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing and preparing the ground for 2024. We're so grateful for you guys and what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and go Dogs.
We're wrapping up here in Austin. You're exactly right. Please go to tpaction.com/get involved to get involved today. All of the different processes. We're going to be, we have an announcement here to make. Starting at the beginning of the year, we're going to be moving to twice a week doing a live version of this every Monday
morning.
Monday morning. So we're going to be Monday morning quarterbacking, on this thing, and then going with our entire team online. And then secondly, we're going to be starting at that time too, a lot more Twitter or X spaces where we can communicate directly with the grassroots and give people everything that they need in order to be successful. So God bless you all. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Take care.